course, to develop an awareness of the potentially negative consequences of a greater Chinese influence in the region, and I think that is important as well. And thirdly, of course, for all South Asian states to retain their agency in decision making while securing their objectives vis-a-vis whatever China has to offer. Bind you entirely to following that in the future. Because the whole idea of tendering is to get, if I may use the phrase, the best bang for the buck. And that's not necessarily the case when tendering is not done. And I think that is a vulnerability that I think South Asian states are aware of but need to be addressed. The third, undoubtedly, is the weakening of civil society institutions, because we are all democracies. The media in all our countries are free to publish, to be critical of the government, and so on and so forth. But there are specific instances, and I think people in Nepal are well aware of that, of when pressure is put on individual media or media houses or media organizations not to tell stories that are unfavorable to China, not to highlight potential malpractices in projects, or the difficulties that projects are facing, or the fact that some of these projects are not sustainable environmentally or economically. And when that silence is imposed, you do, in the long run, the country that is the recipient of that development assistance does suffer in the long run, although in the short run it might benefit. And fourthly, I think, and there is a panel on this, and I'm very glad that there is a panel on this, is the influence operations done through third countries, which is increasingly a focus that we need to understand. We are moving beyond that very crude way of actually using print or audiovisual media to influence events in another country. China is very systematically using digital means, and this is a very long-term development where they actually get into the social media in countries at a time when nothing is happening, introduce ideas into that, so that when the moment comes for them to do something, it looks as if it is the citizens of those countries themselves that are bringing these ideas forward. And there is plenty of very good data and information, including two recent reports by the RAND Corporation and Microsoft, by the way, on how this is being done in a very, very sophisticated manner by China. Now, of course, this not only affects domestic politics, it does, but it also affects the perception in South Asian states about third countries. And that is a matter, of course, of concern to India, because when the dialogue in a particular country becomes anti-Indian in a situation where that is an idea not within the country itself, but introduced very, very subtly from outside, then it's a matter which I think is of concern. And I'm very glad, therefore, that this is a matter which is also identified as something for discussion. I just want to conclude by saying I think there are very encouraging green shoots that I also see. First of all, I see in the region a greater awareness of the pitfalls of going in for big infrastructure projects without a due diligence being done and without tendering, or at least parts of it being tendered. And I think that is something which hopefully going forward will lead to more balanced, more sustainable development. I think there is also a greater awareness of the involvement of China in the local politics in many countries in the region. And frankly, in some cases, they don't understand local politics because China is not a democracy. And it takes a democracy to understand how another democracy functions. Thirdly, I think there is a better understanding of the gap between the promises that it makes, the billions of dollars that it claims it invests, and the delivery that it does. And I think in a number of South Asian states, a number of commitments that have been made on large projects have not actually materialized in the past several years. And fourthly, there is also a capacity in all the South Asian states to understand that a balance needs to be done between China and with other countries which have interests in the region, including India and including the United States, the European Union, ASEAN, and so on and so forth. And you see this in the recent government changes that have happened in practically every South Asian country, Kathmandu, Male, Dhaka, Colombo, about maintaining that balance in the relationship. So I hope that the conference then can find ways to engage pragmatically with China while also recognizing the downsides of that engagement and how to mitigate that engagement.